using performance just as a harvesting tool is great if you're a global brand, right? And it's literally when am I trying to buy people who so many people who've got intent and know about it. But if you're not well known everywhere, we're just trying to keep memory structures alive. And I think back to sort of influencers where I've watched YouTube videos of people who I think I know and watch, and they recommend a product, and I've clicked so many of their links and gone, that's a cool product, I want to buy that one day. And I couldn't tell you any of those products right now because I've forgotten them, right? And so the influencer's done his job. They've got me to click the website, but then I needed to keep seeing or hearing about that, which brings together this. It's not just about conversion. I wasn't ready to buy. There's some brand building there that needed doing.
So I think that's actually one of the most active spaces in this is the influencer as a arm of performance marketing. Like the idea of long-term brand relationships with influencers, and that's about building brand as much, using the influencer's brand to amend to the product's brand, as much as it's about knowing that using the kind of a long-term relationship it does drive kind of short-term results as well, right? But there's lots there about building kind of influencers almost as like retailers, right? You're kind of looking at their digital space and using that as a space to place your product. Now, that kind of leads into a point that was made a few times, which is that younger generations spend so much of their time on digital that your brand is defined by its digital ads, because they are the adverts that you see they are the adverts that younger people, your under 25s are seeing. They don't see your non-digital ads as much, or as a fraction of all the ads they see. Now, an interesting part of that is that really then what we're really talking about is that we're saying that digital or performance ads are ads you can measure the impact of.
Yeah.
And really, it's kind of ironic that we've got to the point where that's not the point of them. Not all digital ads need to be measured straight away as a performance ad.
Yeah, I think there's a really good point there in terms of if I was working full time day to day as a performance marketer, in the climate we're in, it's tough because ad costs or acquisition costs are going up, and there's less people buying with the current kind of climate. But if you can reposition your role in that, yes, we absolutely have got performance element to it, but also it's about some of these longer term metrics and some of these ripple metrics, to coin the phrase that I talked about earlier. It can help you sort of paint a picture to your leadership team that your ads are actually working a lot harder. If you look at some of these other metrics, with a longer term lens, your ads are actually working a lot harder than the short term performance metrics show. So it's not about spending less on ads, but it's about trying to paint a bigger picture and maybe taking a bit more credit for the work the performance team are doing in some of these other areas. Even if it's not a company strategy to say we're going to do brand building with performance, it's already going to be working in it. So we've got brands moving that way, and as a performance marketer, helping your company move that way just gets you more recognition, I think, for the work that you're already doing within the business.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's actually been a false equivalent or a false wall or separation being constructed over the last, I would say, 10, 15 years since the internet came around, where when the internet was text-based, then it made more sense to talk about performance marketing on the internet as it's a conversion tool, right? We're trying to get the people on the internet to our site. Now, the internet's moved on a long time since then. It's now broadly video-based, and that doesn't allow... And we've kind of stuck with those metrics, right? Another way of looking at this is if you could put a camera or something on top of a billboard and then track everyone who looked at it, would you then judge the performance of billboard campaigns by the number of people who then bought the product in the next 7 days?
Yeah.
The answer is the answer is all brand marketers say no, it's long-term marketing, right?
Yeah.
And the same is true online. It's almost like, because we can measure it in the short term, we focus on the short term.
Yeah.
And we assume that the thing that's good in the short term is good in the long term, which is definitely not necessarily the right conclusion to make.